All right, everybody. Thank you very much for your time and attendance today, and welcome to the first of the LDA monthly webinar series. This is something we did years ago, where we did a monthly webinar talking about what was new within the application and giving some training and recommendations on best practices within the application. So we're going to be starting that up again for a monthly session. So thanks for joining the first version of that. We have a lot to get into today. We've added a lot in the application recently. Those that are active in LDA have likely noticed some new features and options and just a different layout too within the design case page. We're going to cover all of that today within our session. And if you stick around for the end, I have a preview of a new exclusive feature we're going to be offering in LDA very shortly, which is going to change how at least you start interacting with the system when you first log into the program. So stay tuned for that. At the end of the agenda, though, I will open it up to a Q&A. So if anybody does have any questions throughout the webinar, feel free to leave them in either the chat or the Q&A session here in this Teams webinar, and we'll be sure to address that at the end of the session. Even if there's questions that you came with today that you'd like to have answered, maybe from your past experience with the program, feel free to throw those in there too. It doesn't have to be just on the topics that we're covering. All right, so the first area that I wanted to break down today was our new pipeline functionality. This has been a request we've had for quite some time from advisors, just to offer a new way of tracking your sales within your insurance business and having a way to see your progress through the years, see where clients are at in your pipeline. So this is something you now have available inside of Life Design Analysis. Now, when you're on the home dashboard screen, you may have noticed that there's this new pipeline report option on the bottom right-hand side. We'll come back to that in just a second, but I wanted to highlight where you have the ability to add plans to your pipeline and then what happens once they are added into your pipeline and how you can review those. So I'm just going to open up an existing case of mine through my manage cases section. So remember, that's like your file folder of what plans or presentations you have ongoing in LDA. So when you go into the design case page now, to the left of the generate report button, there is now this new pipeline stage option that you will see at the very top. This allows you to identify what stage of the pipeline this opportunity lies in. And we have everything from prospecting to won and sold. You can actually manage the stages. And what we mean by that is provide different labels. So if you already have a different way of tracking your sales that you're using in other systems, or maybe you just that resonate better with you than what we provide, you can certainly change the labels of these and remove or add different labels if you wish. But these are the default options. So we have prospecting, discovery call, proposal quote, commitment, underwriting, and then finally won or lost. And when you label a plan or a case as one, we will track your one case allotment throughout the year. So that helps us track, like say your commissions within using LDA or throughout the year, or even different time segments, which we'll look at in the pipeline report. So if you want to put something in your pipeline, you would first establish really what stage it's at. So let's say I want to put this in this discovery call, excuse me, and have it in that stage. When selected, it will bring up a pop-up window, which we'll see here in just a second. It's asking me to put in the opportunity value or the estimated value. So this case, there is a permanent option for a 40-year-old client, 100K of premium. You can kind of see that down here where my cursor is moving. So premium is likely around the $2,500 number. I would know that too if I looked at those plans or if I added them in. This is just a sample case, so that's why I'm putting an estimate number. From there, I could put an expected close date. So maybe I'll say my close date here is beginning mid-July. So I just put in the date there. And then we can add in any notes. So let's just say contacted the client to review the recommendations for their new need. Again, just an example note, just for reference sake. But when you click save, what will happen is it will now add that into that pipeline stage. So you now see at the very top that the stage of it is in discovery call. What we can also see is on the right-hand side, below our client's information, and below where we would add in the secondary client for multi-life or joint cases, we have this option here for pipeline information, where we provide the status, again, the value, the close date, and then any notes that were added into it. If you have an associate or somebody you share a block of business with, they also have LDA, they have access to that client file, you can see who put in the notes. That would be the purpose of stating my name there if the client was shared amongst other advisors or other LDA users. So here's my note. Another thing that I also have right below that and above the needs analysis is the pipeline history. So I could see the current status, which I just put in there, but when changes are made or when updates happen, I would be able to see those records and the time of when those updates happen. So we'll come back to that in just a little bit. Now, if we'd like to take a look at our pipeline in general, just going back to the design case, or excuse me, go back to the dashboard, and we can do that anytime just by clicking the LDA logo. You'll see this pipeline report option on the bottom right. So when selected, it will take us to our pipeline dashboard. So we'll break down each specific section, what it offers. First, we have the visual pipeline tracker. So it does show us in kind of that funnel chart where we're at with the cases in different stages and the value of those opportunities at that specific stage all the way into the one. So you can see as I'm moving my cursor, notice here how the percentage is shown and the number of cases, the value. And notice too, as I hover my cursor over one of these stages, it changes to a pointer finger. So if I click on it, what it will do is it'll actually take me to a specific page where it's listing my cases, but any of the cases that are in that discovery phase, because that's the one I selected. So there's the one for that example Serenity client that I just used a second ago. So going back to that page, our pipeline report, on the right-hand side here, we could see the revenue and opportunity tracker. So this would allow us to see the opportunity amounts, the plans that are won, plans that are lost. We also have the total values listed here just at the very top of the page. So I haven't put anything lost, but we'd be able to see that as well. And it does as a default show it for year to date, but there are different filters that we can utilize to show different timelines. So we could show it year to date or any of these options here. So for anything from the last week all the way up to the like actual last year, as you can see. Again, there's date ranges, there's opportunity ranges we could sort this in. We can even sort by just plans in different stages if we wish. So we can establish those filters to really get more of a granular look into each area or to a specific timeline if we want to. Now, continuing down on the bottom left, it's kind of like a table version of what we're seeing here, but really it allows you to see in a snapshot the amount of cases, the opportunity value, or the amount that's won or lost if we have it labeled as those particular areas. And again, by clicking the view button, it does take us into that specific case view where we can see the plans that are at those particular stages. So there we go, there's that option again. And then finally on the bottom right, this allows us to see the specific clients that are in our pipeline tracker and what stage they are at in regards to the pipeline. So as opposed to looking at just the label of opportunity or the label of the stage, it allows us to look by specific client. So we have that option right there. So let's go back to the client we were just working with, Serenity. Let's just say, as an example, they have moved across the pipeline. We have now won their business. The policy was issued. It is now in force. And now we want to update the records as such. We have two ways of doing this. We can either go to the top of the pipeline stage and we can select the one option, or there's actually a slightly better way. You'll notice here there's a new floppy disk icon just to the left of the normal icons where you'd edit the plans, delete them, or hide them. So you'll see that here, and it says mark as in force. Now, when selected, it will save this plan as an in-force policy to their profile. And because we're saving this as in-force, we're assuming that the case has been won because now that business has been issued and now the client owns that policy. So what it's asking us to do is to put in an issue date. So the current date will show up as the default, but of course we can change that in the same format of any other dates inside of LDA. We could put in a policy number. So maybe I'll just call this example 123, just for demonstration's sake. The checking as save as a policy is done automatically because it is saving this to the client's profile. It's putting in the sold date and then the premium value. So whatever the premium value is of that plan will be added into there for the pipeline tracking purposes. So when we click save as in force, it's actually doing two things automatically. It is saving this plan as an in-force policy to the client's profile. It is also saving it or marking it as in force. So we have that, and then it's labeling it as one. So here we go. We can see that there's this message that's telling us, hey, this plan is now marked as sold, and it's telling us what's happening with this policy. So there we go. We can click continue, or we can design a new case. Few things to note here. We can see the pipeline information that is now updated with the new records. It also is added in the one status into that pipeline history. So when we go back into our pipeline report, we are now able to see that our amounts have now increased as well. So we have that bumped up. We can see like the little bump up as of today as well. So this allows us to, again, track our sales progress, track our existing clients throughout the year, and just have better insight into our business. That is one area where we're pretty known for making the, let's say, opportunities with your existing book known, just with how we work. But this allows you to do it with prospects a little bit better, because that's one request that we've had. There is going to be more that we offer inside here. This is kind of version 1 of this, and we will continue to build this up more and more as time goes on. So I encourage you to check it out and to keep tabs on it and utilize it for your existing cases. If there's any feedback that you have, though, and this goes for anything within LDA, not just this pipeline tracker, don't forget there is the send feedback option that's always on the right-hand side of the page. You may need to adjust your browser zoom settings in order to see it automatically like I do. If you have it as 100% settings, just move your cursor to the right and it will pop up. But if you click on this and send feedback into here, it goes to our team, this goes to our developers, and it gets added into our queue of potential things to release. It really is based on, though, the number of feedback that we hear from advisors. But again, if you have any feedback, send it in here, and that would be the most likely way to see these improvements or additions added into not just this, but any other feature. All right, so we'll continue on here, but if anybody does have a question, again, throw it into that Q&A or chat section, and we'll be sure to address that afterwards. Now that we've covered off the new pipeline tracker, I want to stick on the theme of new additions inside of LDA. So let's just go back into an existing case. So I'll just reset my filters here, and let's see, where do I want to go? I'll just bring up an existing sample case that I have. So I'll just click on view here. So we've updated the design case page a little bit over the coming months, just to make it a little bit smoother, easier to interact with, and just listen to the feedback that we've heard from our subscribers over the past few years. Probably the most common one is that the length of the design case page got quite overwhelming. So what we've done is all of the settings that are available in the center portion of the screen, and that's why I like to break up this area. Below where we see the green buttons to add in different plans, this lower center area here, these are where all the settings lay inside the design case page. And this was a long and lengthy list. So instead of having every one of these just open and fully expanded as a default, they are retracted and they are available to drop down to see what options you have inside of your settings or your case controls, as we label it, as your notes option, your, again, concept controls, especially in cases where maybe you're not utilizing them. There's no need to see them. So this is something that we have done inside of the design case page just to make the viewing experience better. The other thing we've done is we've categorized the report components, which are page options. So instead of just having a long, lengthy list, kind of like we did before, and it's just expanded automatically, this is now condensed, but you can expand it or retract it depending on what you want to see or what you want to utilize. So you'll notice here, as I have this hidden and not expanded, it will show for each section how many pages are selected from the total allotment that it offers. So this is an example IFA report. So it has almost all the IFA pages listed there from those options. Now, this will definitely make it easier to navigate the page options that we categorize them as we currently do. One question I get is, does this mean that this is the page order of the presentation? It is not. The page order still stands as it is, but we just put the categories into these or into this kind of order as you see it here, but this doesn't affect the page order for the output of the presentation itself. So bear that in mind, although that is something we are looking at. So if that is something you want to see, send us some feedback and let us know, but it is a common theme that we've heard from our advisors. So one other area though that I always like to highlight inside of LDA, and this is a little bit hidden, is this option here, this report template selection you see. So why I bring this up, a common theme I hear from advisors is that, yes, you have default pages selected for every time you generate a case, but you're not always working on the same case design from one client to the next. If you're an advisor that works in the family term market, but also works with affluent business owners and is looking for insurance for permanent needs or estate preservation, you need different case layouts or case designs for those different strategies. So inside of the report template option, each of these selections here provides a custom page selection for that strategy or for that comparison or report type that you're looking to work with. So you can see we have a wide variety of options, everywhere from our elaborate cases like a corporate estate transfer or an IFA. And then we have more simplistic options, such as a simple term report, a CI report, term versus permanent. So as you can see here, there's a lot of options that you could choose between. When selected, it chooses the best page option. So let's say I was working on a multiple cash value comparison for a personal situation, because in this case, I have 3 different plan types listed here. So you can see here, if I make that selection, my page options have changed if I expand this all, but it chooses the best options based on the strategy that I'm working with. So for instance, it's choosing our overlay pages that compare plans side by side because I've made that selection. So that way you don't have to try to figure that out yourself. LDA kind of does the thinking for you. Now, as time goes on, you may want to have your own custom versions of these built, because let's say from our selections, you constantly go down and you like removing some of these pages, which as you could see, you can do. You don't have to use just our set example. You can always modify them after the fact. But if you're finding you're constantly doing that, there is an option in your case dropdown. Now, mine is going to be more elaborate as an administrator, but you'll see this option last in your account, this report component presets. I'll just leave the design case page here. I don't need to save what I've done because, again, this is an example. But when you click on that page, it would show you any of the templates you've created. Again, it's showing me all the ones that are created in LDA, again, because of my admin settings. But if you created one, it would be listed here to edit. Otherwise, you can click on the Add New Report Component preset option, and you can label it. If you want to have a text page come up with it, you can add that in. We refer to that as a report note. And then you could choose whatever page options you would like to see for that, and then click Save. When you do that, just going back to the design case page, I'm just using the View Last Case shortcut that we offer. You would see it as an option at the bottom. So for instance, my colleague Nick, he has his own corporate estate example that's different from ours. So as you can see, it's listed at the bottom here. So it's something I always recommend as a best practice for anybody on LDA to utilize those report templates, especially if you're new to the application, but to design your own. So you're not constantly having to go down and make those selections case by case. Yes, it's definitely easy to do, especially when you get the hang of the system. But we hear from users that is something that is constantly needing to be done case by case. This would eliminate having to do it if you make that report template selection. So that's the first kind of feature change I wanted to discuss. Another one that we offer now is the share button to the right of the generate report. So of course, we have the pipeline stage, which we've already discussed, but we also have this share button here. Now, what this is referring to is the case sharing functionality that is built into LDA. So instead of having to generate the report and then click the share button above the cover page when you generate, so I'll just kind of show an example here. So I'm just loading this case up, and you'll see here once it's loaded that there's normally this share button that we would need to select in order to produce a website link for this case that I can then send to the recipient, usually being the client. So instead of having to do 2 clicks to get that link and then wait for it to load, which I mean, it doesn't take long, but the timing can add up if you do this frequently. If you just click the share button, it's just enabling that link automatically, so you don't have to wait for that design case page to load. And then when you click the share button, it copies the link into your clipboard, so you can then paste it in an email, a text, or however you want to communicate it or share it with your client or the end recipient. And then if you click the arrow pointing down, there are some additional options that you can see here. You can even access the share settings for this. And speaking of share settings, we did add a new setting in for the case sharing, which is password protection. It is something that advisors have requested for quite some time with the case sharing, because we've always offered an expiration date, and we've always offered the option to request additional information such as like name. Also, we have that reCAPTCHA option on there too for security's sake. But instead of having to just rely upon that, now you have the option of setting your own password, which you can do. There is the ability for LDA to generate a strong password, and then you can copy that password to your clipboard if you want, and then paste it in the communication to the client, however you choose to do that. So that is a new security feature that we've added onto this. Now, if let's say the client enters it in incorrectly, or if they lock themselves out, because we kind of give a 4-strike policy with this. So if they enter an incorrect password 4 times, it will lock them for the case. But if you want to, you can always clear that password, so then they can get access if something like that ever happens. So it's not like you're also locked from enabling the client to see it if they lock themselves out. So you can always clear that off. So that's something to definitely take advantage of if you're a fan of our case sharing functionality. And for those of you that aren't aware of really the main benefits, it allows the client to see the full report and the interactive report on their own device. And it also heat maps when they open it, how long they look at it for, how long they look at each page, and how much interaction is done. And all that information is sent back to you in the form of a notification and saved in LDA. So you have those records for future reference. And just so you're aware of what the client sees, I'm just going to open this in an incognito window just to trick my computer to make it think that I'm not already logged into Life Design Analysis. But this is what the client would see. So I turned off the password so I don't have that inside of here, but they have that full report. Now, this is an IFA one. I'm not going to get into the IFA strategy here today because that's probably a webinar topic on its own. But this allows them to see the full visual and interactive report that they can toggle between. So again, for instance, if they're looking at the visual, they see the numbers, they could toggle on and off the different options quite easily. But you get the alert when they view that. So if I close out of this and if I go back to my design case page, look to the left of where it says welcome in my name. You'll see that my notifications go from 0 to 1. And if I went to my notifications, it would tell me that this particular client viewed the case. But I also have those case settings saved right here on the design case page, just on the right-hand side, a little bit below our needs analysis or our pipeline history, which we referred to earlier on. And this button here, when selected, shows page by page how long it was looked at for, and how much interaction was made on that particular page. So very minimal data here, but at least in this case, I know the clients opened it. Maybe they've skimmed through it, so maybe I'll wait until I get another notification to then follow up with them. Again, if anybody has any questions, feel free to throw it into the chat section, and then we'll be sure to address that afterwards. All right, so let's transition now to some of the policy management stuff and some of the updates that we've made. So I'm just going to access that side of LDA by clicking on Manage Clients. And what I'll do is I'll bring up one of my demonstration clients called Sharon Sample. So I'm just typing in her name and selecting View to access that client's profile. Now, this will definitely become more valuable for you as you start using your pipeline tracker and marking plans as sold. Because when they're marked as sold, they will then come into the client's profile and be saved as a policy. And any policies that are saved in LDA are tracked through our client management system, which would allow you to get notifications for opportunities such as renewals, exchanges, swaps, that sort of stuff. And then you also have reporting that's built in where you can filter to find different opportunity types. You can also leverage those plans in future cases. So if you want to show an existing coverage of a client versus a new recommendation, you have the ability to do that once the policy information is saved in here. So you leveraging the pipeline tracker is a great way to keep your block of business up to date. If you're looking to load in your block of business, if you're starting from scratch, just to go back, actually, I'll go back a step here. On the home dashboard, there is an import client section where you can actually make an in-force block of business request with most carriers. So if you see it listed here, you click on request clients. What you can do is put in your name, your email. Well, that's actually in there automatically because we have that as part of your settings. Put in your advisor code or code with that carriers and click this box off just to say you give us permission to contact the carrier on your behalf. And then when you click send, we send an in-force request to the carrier for you. Within about 2 weeks, it usually is on average for the carriers, they send you back a data file that contains not only your client's information, but their policy information with that carrier. If you send that to us, we upload that into your account as a part of our Premier subscription and as a part of the account setup. So we can load in your block of business, not just with one, but with any insurance carrier. Now, some carriers are not going to follow this process. So for instance, Manulife is one to note where it is better to go to the advisor portal and download that spreadsheet file from your advisor portal. Or some carriers, it's better to leverage your wholesaler relationship and they can provide that file. But if you provide us with the data file for your client policy information, if it's not available through this method that I just showed, if you send it to us, we can upload that into your account, do all the formatting that's necessary because all the carriers are different. And then the end result is that you see your client and policy data in LDA and you could start managing your block of business through the manage client section. Now going into a client profile here. So one of the things that we've done is we've updated how we list policies. So for instance, if a carrier, or let's say if a plan has different line items like riders, ADO, dividends, some carriers like Manulife, they list it as different line items. We will categorize them together. So you kind of see that here in this little expand and retract option for this Empire Life option. So we're able to bundle coverages more as opposed to list them as different line items like we did before. And the nice thing about this in LDA is because we have the client profile, if they have a policy through multiple providers, we have it in one profile. So for this example, Sharon doesn't have 3 different profiles. Sharon just has the one, despite having a policy through 3 different carriers. Now, because this information is all amalgamated in one location, we can then generate a summary report, and we can see that on the bottom right of their profile, or excuse me, the top right, just below where it says welcome in my name. This generate policy summary button, when selected, it puts together a report, which on one page will highlight all their policy information from the data we get from the insurance carriers, and we upload that into your profile. Now, not all the data will necessarily come across depending on the carrier. Some of them do have their nuances here and there. The majority of it will come in and a lot of it will look like what you see here. But if you need to add to it, if you hover your cursor over the column header for one particular plan, it will allow you to either modify or add information for that particular section. You also have the ability to hide specific rows if we wanted to. So if let's say all the premium schedules are annual, we don't want to show that, we can hide it from this report. So that's not listed here. And the nice thing about this too is if we make updates to these policy summary reports for any particular plan that's listed in there, it updates that policy inside of the client's profile. So we don't have to just update the report. It will also update the data that we have saved inside of here. Now, if there is anything that is typically added in after the fact, it is usually on the term side, the renewal amount. Carriers, they just don't have a way of providing renewals for their term policies, or at least they don't have a consistent way of doing it. So that's something that you could always add along with the data. But this is where it comes back to the marking as sold feature we showed earlier on. Any term plans that you present in LDA, we have the renewal data because with our Life Guide integration, it comes through. So we could show it in the reports. So when you mark it as sold and it's saved to the client profile, it will add in those renewal premiums as well. So you don't have to remember them after the fact or get those details. So it is definitely the best way to keep that block of business up to date as you start updating your pipeline and then updating your client policy section. Now, just going back to their profile, just a reminder that if you're utilizing this side of LDA, the data for these policies can be added into an insurance case or an insurance presentation. Now, in order to create a case for an existing client, we have two ways of doing that. Inside of their profile, you'll see this new case button right here, this green one. This will automatically design a new case for this client and add in all their information that's for their client profile, or at least their contact and personal information. Now, the other thing I can do is I can go to the home dashboard and go to the add new case option, and I can search for a client inside here. So if I want to add in a client that I already have an LDA, I can just type in the characters of their name. LDA runs a search, and then right below it shows me the results. So there's Sharon's sample. What I would need to do is click on Sharon's name. So I don't just type in the name Sharon and hit enter. An error will appear. I'm sure some of us here have seen that before if we just type in the first name and hit enter. Also, I have seen advisors try to search by last name. Unfortunately, right now for us, that doesn't work, but we are working on an update to get that fixed. So that is something that you could also search by if you want to look for someone in a family, let's say. But going back to working with an existing policy holder, if you click continue, you'll be brought to the design case page. It looks the exact same as what we would normally see. But one of the options that we have inside of here is this button here to add in an in-force policy. So when selected, it will show me all the policy numbers that appear in their profile. So some of these should look familiar to what we saw when reviewing that. In this pop-up window, we can then verify the term length, save that, and in just a few seconds, we'll see that load from the client's profile into the design case page, their existing policy information. It will also show it as of the issue date of that policy. So I have it as September 6, 2020 or 2016, meaning that this policy is coming up for renewal later this year in about 4 months' time. So now would be a good time to act on it. There would still be one further notification for this policy because our notification schedule on T10 starts at the 7th year anniversary. Occurs every year on that anniversary date. So in this case, it'd be the 6th of September. And then the final one would appear 90 days or 3 months prior to. So that is something I would see on the 6th of June for this particular client. Again, if anybody does have a question, let us know through either the chat or the Q&A section, and we can be sure to address that. Now, one other thing I wanted to highlight too when it comes to the case design or the end report is we have received feedback from our users on how to remove pages. So let's say I'm generating this report and I'm viewing it, and this page is redundant because we're looking at this for 10 years, the cost level. Maybe I don't want to show this to my client, but I don't want to have to go back, uncheck it, and then generate it again. We now have this new option here to delete pages right from the report. So I can remove it, and it's not only removing it from the current view, it's removing it from the selections. So if I go back to make an edit and then I generate the report again, that page will still be unselected. So that is a new capability that we have within the report viewing. So when you're analyzing this information yourself, you don't have to, again, make those unnecessary clicks, wait for that unnecessary load time. That is all done for you out of the box. So again, just click that delete, that removes it, and it removes it from those selections. All right, and just a reminder too, when we're working on cases like this one, a conversion case, of course, we can add in new options to compare against it. For those of you that have a block of business in LDA, if this is something that you need support with, definitely let us know. We do a lot of case design calls now with our subscribers. So if there's a strategy that you haven't worked with in LDA, or if you're new to LDA and you're still getting comfortable with the program, let us know. We could support you with working through an existing case where you would share your screen with us and we would handhold you through the case design process. So you get that learning, but you have something that you could take away into a client meeting, and then you can build on that learning as time goes on when you start utilizing the program yourself. So if that is something you're interested, definitely let us know. I'll provide my email address in the chat section afterwards. So you have that to take away and contact me if you'd like to initiate it. You can also use our live chat. We have that little chat bubble on the bottom right of the page inside of LDA. And this goes to anybody on our customer success team. So if you'd like to chat with us or ask any questions or request any meetings of that type, you can certainly do that through there. All right, so that was really my main agenda today, but I did want to highlight what's coming out though with LDA. One thing, especially for those of you that have been around with us from the early years, we haven't really updated our dashboard. It has always been the same when you first log in, and it looks just like this. Yeah, we've added a few things here and there, like our pipeline tracker or the group section for sharing or collaborating with other subscribers, or for anybody that's in an organization, we also have that view. But that's about it. It looks the same. That's not going to be the case anymore because this is something that is now going to be coming out in LDA, which is our new dashboard page, which is more inclined of what you would see with more elaborate systems or CRMs, but this is totally customizable to you with the data inside of your LDA account. So let's break this down because I know it is a lot just looking at it right from the get-go. So first off, right at the top, we have the ability to use our main key features like creating clients, cases, there's managed cases and or managed clients and cases. There's our pipeline, orgs and groups. So kind of all of those key things that we saw previously. But then we have other insights that are available right on the dashboard without us having to go to a particular page. Like our funnel, there's an option to see it right there without having to click on that pipeline tracker. Seeing pipeline activity, recent clients that we've created, upcoming renewals will be listed in here. So we don't have to go into our client section and we can filter that by key timelines. Now, this is a demonstration environment, so I don't have a client listing in here, which is why we don't see that. Any custom reminders we have, our notifications. So instead of having to go to the notifications page and to view that, that is something else that we'll have built in. And there's many more different filters. I won't go over all of them because there is a ton of them. But even things like industry news, we'll have built in here, client maps. So if you have a block of business that's across the province or across the country, we'd be able to see that. And then other insights on our clients, our carriers, face amounts, that sort of stuff. But there's a few key features I want to note here. So right away, if you're looking at this and you see like recent clients, if you want to have the ability to be able to open up LDA in front of a client, there is this privacy mode that we also have. So by toggling that on, it will hide any confidential information such as client names or records. So now that is not visible if you open up LDA in front of somebody like a client who shouldn't see other client information. So we have that built in right there. Now we also have other filters. So there's different layouts that you could select. There is going to be the main one called My Layout, where you can customize what you want to see of all the options, the order of it, the size of those widgets. That's what we're calling each one of these sections here. But if you want to see it for something in particular, like pipeline or cases, clients, maybe a more compact view, kind of like we've had before, you have the ability to toggle in those different modes. For widgets, this shows you all the different options we provide. So as you can see, there are a lot of them. And when you select them, they go into this section right here. And you can change the order of where they appear. You can change the size of those options, or you can simply remove them. So you have the ultimate control as to what you would want to see or what's important to you and how you can place it on the dashboard. Let's see here. So yeah, again, there is a lot that's coming out here within this dashboard. So it's something we've been requested a lot. One thing we're also looking at doing soon in a future iteration is having quick quoting in here. So instead of having to design a case to then do a quote for a market survey, you would have that right here on the home dashboard page. So again, this is something that we will be releasing soon. It will likely be coming out in the coming weeks exclusively to the LDA interface. So definitely look forward to that. There will be a lot of training video and content coming out just to tell you more about how you can set it up, how you can, reorder it and really customize it to yourself. But I definitely encourage everybody that's on here when this does come out to set it up in a way that matters to you. So the information you want to see is available from the home dashboard, and then you can go into the other sections from there once you dive into a little bit further. And if you have any questions on the dashboard or what it's going to look like, please throw that in here and we'll be sure to address that. All right, so that's the end of my agenda. Why don't we move over to our Q&A section? So again, if you have any questions, throw them in either into the Q&A or throw them into the chat section and we'll be sure to address them. But let's go through a few of them that have come in. So let's see here. So Richard asks, can LDA export product/client information from LDA software into the e-app for various carriers? So we do have integration with Empire Life and their Fast and Full e-app. That's the only carrier currently, but it is something we are looking at expanding between in the future years. I don't know if I have a case with an Empire plan right now that I can show you, but where you would see that is just below the client's name. You may notice sometimes that carrier icons appear. But when you see an Empire one on there and you click it, it will actually direct you into Fast and Full, and the client information and the plan that was used will be sent into Fast and Full to then proceed for the e-app process. It is something, again, we are looking to build, but currently Empire Life is the main carrier that we offer for that integration, but stay tuned for more details there. All right, Darcy asked, for the client policy report, can we also add off-book policies that may have a different advisor that we can not have loaded otherwise, but still want to have a look at the client's policy? So as long as you have the data for a policy, yes, you can load them in, or that policy or that particular client. If a client profile already exists for them inside of LDA, if you click on the client's profile to access, or the name of the client to access the profile, there is the new policy option. And when you add in a new policy, you can make a notes listing that, hey, this policy is maybe not of yours, but if they've provided that information, then you can enter that in to have it listed in there. So yes, there is that option. Or just from the manage client view, you'll have the ability to add a new client. And then once you have a new client, you can add a new policy. And of course, from the new dashboard, we do have that new client button or create client button now. That's something that's been requested a lot. So you'll be able to do that from there as well. So thanks for that question, Darcy. Greg asked, can we build a case and use the delete function on the slides that come up with the packages we like, and then save that as a template for future cases? Yes. So once you go through that, Greg, and that kind of self-assessment, and you have the pages that you like selected, there isn't like a save option built in, like where it's like, oh, save this selection as a template. That is actually something we are looking at adding in. But what you would have to do is go into the cases section, go to the report component presets, and then use those same selections. Just to note too, this isn't something that you have to take on yourselves. If you want to, you can contact us via the live chat and just say, hey, could you save the selection for this case as a setting in my profile? And then we could set that up for you if you let us know over the live chat. But you have the ability of doing it yourself. It's just not like as a, hey, save this as a template for future reference yet. But great question there. Let's see here. George asked, I've mistakenly archived a notification. Is there a way to move it back to the notification section? Yes, I believe there is, George. Let me know, or I'll chat with you offline and we'll be able to figure that out. But yes, if it's archived, there is a way to bring it back. Yes, Sean, the recording, you will receive a copy of it. So that'll be sent out after the fact. So we'll make sure to get this to you afterwards. Tamara asks, if you have someone external who sends you leads, is there a link for them to pre-fill referral info that goes into the pipeline? So there's kind of two ways of doing this, Tamara. You can either have it really depends on if the client profile exists in LDA already or not. If they exist already in LDA, then you can share them a needs analysis link to kind of fill in some of the basic information for them. So you'll notice here in the design case page, when you go into the needs analysis, I'll just say it's a personal scenario because that's likely where these leads come up. There's a link your client to fill button on the top right that you could select, and that will send the needs analysis link to your client. And when they fill it in, when they click at it and they fill in the sections that come up here, there's a little more of a client-friendly view for them. It will fill it in and associate it to that case. So that is one option. Now, the other one is the LDA web tool called Lead Gen that you can embed onto a landing page or into your website. So generally speaking, for leads, let's say it comes from a mortgage broker. That's a very common one we hear. Mortgage broker refers a lead to an insurance advisor instead of going through the traditional mortgage insurance. So instead of sending them to you directly or you sending them a form, they would provide this link or the link of where your lead generation add-on is embedded to. So let's say it's your website, you send your website link. Client goes to this section here, they fill in their information. There's a needs analysis portion with this as well. It will not only create the profile or the lead in LDA, it will create a needs analysis for them if they fill in that information, and it will create a presentation. So it's kind of a 3-for-1 scenario. So the lead gen is probably the most commonly used, especially for leads that are coming in. Awesome. Thanks for that question, Tamara. I think we have one more or two more inside the chat section. So a question we got from Heather, can you save the FNA as a PDF? So I guess my question would be, are you looking to have the fillable version filled in as a PDF? If not, when the needs analysis is created, what you have the ability to do is just select the needs analysis page to generate when you show the report. Now, the thing is, you would have to have at least one plan in the case in order to generate the report itself. So let's say you create the needs analysis, a need's been established, you have just the needs analysis page selected. As long as you have one plan listed in here, even if you don't have pages that are going to show that report, it will generate the report, and then the needs analysis will show up. And then once any report's generated, so it would just be that needs analysis screen, you can generate that as a PDF file, which will only save it as the needs analysis. So you would see that generate PDF file option. So again, really the key thing is once you've done the needs analysis, just add in one plan, like make it like a quick term 10, throw it in there, remove all those other page options, and then generate the report. You'll be able to get it. Jamie asked, T10 should have a notification at year 4, 4.5 for conversion. We do actually. That is for the term swap or exchange. So those come in at the 2nd year anniversary, 3rd year, 4th year, and then 90 days prior to that 5th year anniversary for those early swaps that the carriers offer. So again, if you go into your notifications, there's many different types that you, whether it's for cases that have been viewed, opportunities that are triggered, but if you click on this option at the top where it says show all notifications, it'll actually allow you to sort by notification type. So you can see here like term 10 conversion opportunities, there's the potential term exchange opportunities. So usually our process is for T10s, 3 years prior to an opportunity, whether it's an exchange or a swap or a conversion, excuse me, we'll have into the first notification, and then every year after the anniversary date up until 90 days prior to that kind of deadline, if you will. And then for T20s, we start at 5 years prior, so at the 15th year anniversary. Now, one thing you can also do inside of Life Design Analysis is create your own reminders. And this is something you'll be able to see on that new dashboard, any reminders that you've created yourself. That can be tied to a specific client or a specific like list if you want to, or case. A common one I see is advisors creating it for maybe other types of opportunities like convertibility age, which we don't have right now. We are looking to, so that could be another way to leverage the notifications. So George was saying when I run a CI term 10, it doesn't show all CI options, for example, RBC. There could be some settings inside of your LDA account which may be preventing that. But for a lot of CI options, despite there being a search option, a lot of advisors actually aren't aware that there is also a way to bring in CI data from the carrier's illustration software via the manual option in selecting CI. This is usually recommended so we could show the return of premium rider amounts. The critical illness searching is great for quoting, but if you are showing anything with ROP riders built into it, it's not going to show, like, for instance, if it's return of premium on surrender at year 15, what that amount would be if they surrendered the policy after 15 years, which is usually something we want to disclose. So if you're wanting to show those specific data points, you would need to bring it in from their illustrator, and that's something you can do for RBC and for other carriers. So keep that in mind. All right, I don't see any other questions. So just inside of the chat here, I am throwing my email. So if anybody would like to speak with me or have a training session, have any other questions answered, feel free to reach out to me via my email there. So it's just jonathan@lifedesignanalysis.com. Also, if there's any other topics you'd like to see inside of these sessions, send us via the feedback, communicate with us via live chat or via my email. And remember, the live chat's just on the bottom right of any page inside of LDA. Or again, if there's anything new that you'd like to see within the application that would make your life easier, or maybe you find redundancies or bottlenecks, we always love to know that stuff. So please do reach out to us, and your opinion does matter. But again, look out for that new dashboard coming soon. So hopefully this is something that you'll definitely see a benefit from, and there'll be some time savings and better insights to your business that are offered as opposed to having to dig for that information as it currently stands. Awesome. So I'll conclude today's webinar session. Thank you everybody for your time and attendance. Be on the lookout for an email with the recording of this information. And again, please do not hesitate to reach out if there's anything that we could support you with in your life design analysis account. Oh, and also one note too, if you aren't a subscriber of LDA already and you're looking to learn more, go to our website, click the Get Started option to start the free 15-day trial to test us out. And with that too, we also have training and introduction sessions we can run to show you more about LDA for your business. So if you aren't on LDA already, I'll throw in the link for our 15-day trial. So feel free to take advantage of that risk-free offering. Thanks again, everybody. Have a great rest of your day, and thanks for joining us.